Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this playoff edition of Inside the Zone. And Blake, let's get right to it. 2 games, 2 wins. And the Komets, in certain instances, the 4-3 game in the opener, the score was closer than the game would indicate, in my opinion.
Yeah, in a way, yes, exactly. When they got up 3-1, I'm thinking, well, okay, they got to come back hard for game 2, you know?
Yeah.
But they just, I mean, that's where those 11 times this year where they came back from 2-goal deficits really paid off, because they didn't panic and they just kept playing. And they just kept the pressure on C.J. Mott, and it worked.
You just kept checking that game and thinking, you know, the Komets, when you expect them to trounce somebody in a series in the playoffs, they like to make it difficult on themselves.
Well,
I guess is the short way of phrasing it. So I was like, I'm not even worried about this. If they lose game 1, no big deal. I feel like
it was like last year first round, Cincinnati. Oh, let's lose the first 2 games at home.
Right. I mean, I was like, not worried.
Allen, let's lose the first 2 games at home again. You know, I mean,
But it gives you a ton of confidence going forward that they're able to come back in that game and now set up the series where they're up, 2 games to 0 in Quad City. Basically, I mean, they can't really lose any games at home in this 2 to possibly 3 games in Quad City that we're going to see this week.
Oh no, it's all on. I mean, the Mallards got to win 4 out of 5. I mean, that's it, and that means they got to score more than 3 goals in a game, and that ain't happening either right now. I mean, when you have 31 shots on goal in 2 games, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, and a lot of those shots were from long range, because they're not getting anywhere near the middle of the ice. They're not getting anywhere near Pat Nagel.
That's what I wanted to talk about, is the shots. The disparity is so huge. Really was in game 1.
It's like you're watching the Indy Fuel regular season game, isn't it?
Well, it was 37-13 in game 1. They ramped it up to 37-13, 18.
I said they came back hard.
Woo! But, what is the reason for that disparity? Because, I mean, it jumps out at you when you look at the paper.
And I asked the Quad City folks, I mean, you guys had trouble scoring? And he goes, just you guys. I mean, it's how well that you guys are playing. And the Komets are playing exceptional forecheck. I mean, their forecheck is, I don't know how some of their defensemen aren't like bugs on the glass, because they've been ran into so hard. And they've been coughing it up. I mean, that is the weakness on any AA minor league hockey team, is the defense, and you go after it. So you keep it away from your defense, too.
When you take a look at what Gary wanted to do the last week of the regular season, he kept, especially after the Toledo game, he said we got to block shots. That was one of the main things. Block shots, block shots. Quad City is getting shots from the outside, but that doesn't really bother you at all, just because it's so...
Oh, gosh, no. Because Pat can see him.
Right.
I mean, he can see him, and then it's kind of a deal where the defensemen are kind of trained. Okay, try to block it if it's this far out, but after that, let me see it, kind of thing. So he can see it, and he's comfortable, and I think he's been playing pretty well. I mean, you look at, they got, 3 goals in their first 5 shots, and they've got, 2? No, they have 1 since. I mean, that's like in 5 periods they've had 1 goal. I mean, pretty much.
Well, and one of the things that we talked about, specifically, I want to go back to that Toledo game. I know Gary said don't put that much in it, but it didn't appear to be on the same page.
No.
Nagel and his defense, it was like the shots
and
that
Nagel
Toledo
likes
got.
it different than Garrett Bardis like. It's just like starting pitchers with catchers. I mean, the pitcher knows what he wants. Maybe the catcher doesn't understand it. Maybe he's not used to working with the catcher. It's the same thing with goaltenders and defense. Garrett wants something different than Pat wants sometimes.
That brings me to my next question, is we haven't seen Garrett Bardis.
Yes.
I think you could have made a case for him as the team MVP during the regular season based on injuries and really how well he played, kind of a little bit out of nowhere. So are we going to see Garrett Bardis in this series? If so, when? Do you want to disrupt? You mentioned the pitcher-catcher type relationship between the defense and Pat, as opposed to what it is with Garrett. And obviously it's working very well with Pat. So do you change it up if you're Gary? Are we going to see Garrett Bardis? If so, when?
I think you will. I really do. And I think you'll see him Friday night in Quad City. I don't have any inside information on that. It's just my gut. Because you're going to want Garrett ready to go if you need him for the next round, if you keep winning. I mean, either way, I think Garrett's going to play. You're going to need him sharp.
One of the questions you always have is rookies. How are they going to respond to the playoff atmosphere? I know Mike Gazzola, I guess he is somewhat of a traditional rookie, but when you take a look at what he's able to do, a goal in each game, what has he brought to the table, and how impressed have you been with this guy in his first, professional playoff stage?
How about after game 1 saying, those first 2 goals were the forward's fault, and frankly, they were my fault. I mean, how much do you give him credit for that? And then making up for it, I mean, he took the pressure off of Pat and the defense. Well, Pat had, I'm taking pictures of this, and there's like 2 Quad City players on each goal, and there's no one else in the frame. I mean, it's just like, that was a breakdown, or 2 or 3. But for Mike to step up and say, hey, those were mine, those weren't Pat's, and then make up for it, I mean, you got to be impressed with that. The one thing about this series, there shouldn't have been any jitters. You know, you just played them last weekend. I mean,
twice, yeah.
You know exactly what they've got, other than they had the 2 centers come off IR, and they'd played really well. But you know exactly what they can and can't do, so there shouldn't have been any jitters after the first minute or so.
Again, one of the things Gary stressed going into the postseason, and we always, I think, stress it going into the postseason, is that of special teams. The Komets have a power play goal in each of the games. You score a power play goal you average a power play goal in the playoffs, you're going to win a lot of games.
Well, and they changed things up from game 1 to game 2, because game 1, everybody's standing around, everybody's looking at each other. I got the puck. What am I supposed to do with it? Game 2, everybody was moving more. There was a lot more flow to it. That's where their forecheck is just killing Quad City, because they can dump it in or carry it in, and they're getting it back. I mean, they just are not very good at moving the puck out of their own zone, and that's really a benefit to the Komets. And, you know, the face-offs in their zone to start the power play anyway, too. And, you know, they've been killing on face-offs in this series.
Because they played 12 times during the regular season, the most that Komets have played an opponent this season, and then especially, you know, those 2 times right before the regular season ended. Gary said there's always some wrinkles, there are always some things that you do a little bit differently that you don't want to tip your hand for. What are some of the wrinkles that you've seen and some of the little tweaks that maybe have been effective and some of the things that maybe they're still waiting on to be effective?
All right, here's one thing that I noticed right away, and I asked about it because I didn't understand it. Power play, the first unit's got Mike Gazzola out there and Sean Sedlowski and I think Jamie Shaftsma, and it's like, okay, why is Sean taking the face-offs? You got Gazzola, he's a natural center. What they're doing is they're putting on the right dot, it's Sean. On the left dot, it's Mike, because then they can go their strong side, and they're winning those face-offs right away. So that's one thing, because I don't remember Sean taking that many face-offs this year. Another thing, not so much of a wrinkle, but this is what Quad City's trying to do, and this is what Toledo will definitively try to do. They're trying to make Pat move side to side, and then they're shooting high, because they don't feel like they feel like there's an opening there. If you can get him on this side to shoot it before he gets back to the other post. That's what's going on there. And he's down on his knees, so you're always aiming high, okay? Same thing Mike Embach did on his goal against C.J. Mott. He aimed short side high, which was blocker side.
You mentioned C.J. Mott.
Actually, it was stick side.
You mentioned C.J. Mott when we were previewing this series last week. What have you made of his play? Because you said if the Mallards are going to make this into a series, it's going to be on the back of C.J. Mott.
He's been great. I mean, he's faced 37 shots in both games.
Yeah.
And he's gotten no help at all from his defense.
He's saving 90.5% of the shots he's
it's
facing.
amazing, which is considering he's faced 74 shots in 2 games. You know, I mean, he can't skate down the other end and shoot, you know. I mean,
he could. It would just take a while.
He can flip it out for icings, but I mean, it's like somebody's got to get there to move it for him, you know. I mean, I think he's done everything. I think he's tried to do more. He's trying to come out of his net to play the puck more on dump-ins and stuff because he's not getting any help.
All right, so Game 3, we're guaranteed Wednesday in Quad City. Game 4, guaranteed Friday in Quad City. What are you looking for the Komets to improve upon, and what are some of the keys early on in Game 3 on Wednesday night? Because you're making the trip out to Quad City.
Well, I think part of it is, and I was really encouraged by this, right after Game 2, Gary's like, I don't like some of the penalties we took. Jamie Shaftsman's, we've still got to cut down on some of those penalties. And you could tell by the urgency, somebody's got an earful on that one. You know, you cannot react. You cannot. Kyle Thomas's cross-checking penalty, that was bad. I mean, you were sticking up for Cody Soul, but it's like, does Cody Soul need stood up for? Come on.
Yeah, he's a pretty big dude. He can handle
You got to handle it like Sean Sedlowski handled it. He actually initiated that too. He slashed Brady Bassett before, and then Brady got him back on the hand, and then Sean approached him, okay, we're going. And Brady's like yapping, and they're yapping. But nothing happened, you know. You cannot do that kind of stuff. Travis Ewan on the bench, getting into it with Grant Arnold, you really can't do that. You can't start the third period of a 1-goal game with a penalty kill. You can't. because Toledo will eat that up. You got to keep getting better at that.
On the flip side, what can Quad City do to get back in this series? Because we talked about it right at the outset. I mean, this is certainly up 2-0. Yeah, that's great. But this is certainly the Komets series to win, no doubt about it.
And it's been that way from the start. But the only thing I can see that the Mallards can do is they've got to try to get to the middle. They have to try to get near the slot and get near Pat, and they have not been able to do that. Now, they may not get shots there, but they might pick up a penalty or two. I mean, that's the only option they've got because the only offense they're producing is on their power plays. They're getting nothing else. Everything else is perimeter. It's outside. They're using their points pretty well for the defensemen to try to get shots from there. But there's nobody there, and like Curtis Leonard said, they dump it in. It's ours. I mean, we're beating them to the puck and we're moving it, and they're on their heels again.
To wrap this thing up, I just want to ask the point-blank question. Is this series basically over in your mind?
We'll find out in the first 5 minutes.
You think so on Wednesday?
I mean, let's face it. They got to win 4 out of 5. They can't do it. It's not going to happen because they can't score. So I think this definitely the Komets series to win. Let's put it that way. And everything Quad City does is dictated on what the Komets allow them. I mean, that's a great position to be in. It's better than being up 2-0. It means you control everything.
They certainly have, and they have looked good other than early in game one, but the comeback was impressive, and it just kind of showed you how gritty this team could win with it. As I believe Jamie Shaftsman put it, a greasy goal in the 5-hole.
Well, here's another thing. You're asking for things they're looking for earlier. The Komets are trying to create offense below the goal line because C.J. Mott is so aggressive coming out to challenge shooters and stuff. So they're trying to work it down low, so he's looking over his shoulder this way and that, and then they're trying to hit the guy in front, and it's worked.
Yeah, a lot of things have worked so far for the Komets in the series. We'll see if they continue this week as they hit the road.
This is fun, man, when you can dial in on one team and one series like this and really study it and stuff. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
You can guarantee Gary has dissected the film and has these guys ready to rock for Game 3
he's been a step ahead the whole way.
He has. He's been great. All right, we'll talk about it next Monday. More Komets playoffs inside the zone with Blake Sebring. I'm Glenn Marini. We'll see you next week.